Good evening, everyone. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pineless Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the heated Extreme Studios talking to the guy from the great Midwest. That, would, of course, would be RDV. And that's the movie we were talking about, RDV, Heat, with Val Kilmer. We just did a recognition video of his passing here, too. And this is a movie you're in the middle of watching. Yep. It's a Michael Mann film, so we'll have a lot to say about it, too. But I'm interested to kind of get our take on it. I'll start off by saying this. Anything Michael Mann does looks good. This movie was very popular at the time. I think it was a little overrated for when it came out. I'm not saying it's a bad film, but a lot of it had to do with the idea of the people that are in it and what's going on. And after just rewatching it here again, I could sit there and say some of the stuff we talked about Val Kilmer, it just hit me like a ton of bricks just on the rewatch here too. It's a longer film, so not bad, but it's a mood piece. If you're not ready for it and something you haven't seen, be prepared to just kind of sit back and just let it take you where it wants, because that's what Michael Mann does. It's a really great film. I enjoy a lot of things about it too. There's others Michael Mann that I do prefer, but what about you? What's your initial take?
Visuals, it was a first watch for me. I've seen trailers before and people are like, oh my god, you gotta watch it, and I'm glad that I watch it. It's not a bad movie, but I think it's overrated. If people say, "Oh, it's one of the best movies ever," I hear that all the time. It's like, no. It's good for certain things that Michael Mann does with the camera work. Acting is good in here, except for Al Pacino. Al Pacino is the weak link. Goodbye. Al Pacino became a character of himself in this movie. I gotta talk real loud because that's how I talk now. It's like, no, you don't have to. Sorry. It becomes obnoxious during the movie.
You're not the first one that said that. And in all seriousness, back,
sure
this is mid-90s. You're really not.
I won't be the last. 1996. But let's talk about how this movie came together first before we. So apparently, when back in 1979, I was reading up on all this. Just before the movie Thief came out. We got.
I'm sorry, which movie?
Thief.
Oh, Thief. Yes, incredible Michael Mann film. Love it to death.
Yeah, came out in 1901. But before that, Michael Mann had wrote a 180-page script draft, rough draft for Heat, and he was gonna have it. Was working on it, and then Thief came out. So then he rewrote it, offered it to Walter Hill. Walter Hill said no, which was kind of dumb. But
Walter Hill would great. Walter Hill film.
Right. And then what's crazy about this, that what happened is that and a couple years later, that rough draft became a failed TV pilot, which turned in before it was released, they turned it into a movie called LA Takedown, which came out in 1989.
I've heard of that. Yeah. Okay.
That was the original draft for Heat. They changed the name of Neil to some other character. Yeah. It's exactly the same characters in the movie here, but they changed some of the names. Yeah, so it's pretty much it's the same plot. So then years later, he comes back to 1996. He does the draft again, gets a higher bigger name actors, gets Robert De Niro, gets Al Pacino, gets Val Kilmer, who was a newcomer who just basically launched the popularity from Top Secret, Top Gun, and was doing all these different movies and all. So he's like, well, I got to grab him for this,
Right.
And so you get all these big name celebrities, and you got to, I was looking at the cast, man. I'll share my screen so you can look at you guys can see how many people are in this movie.
It's loaded. This is A+.
Yeah. Look at this. Yeah, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, Ashley Judd, Amy Brennan, I recognize her. I don't know Diane
Verona. She has been in stuff, and she was definitely someone in the 90s. She was definitely recognizable. It's not just a nobody.
But young Amy Brennan. Whew.
Tom Sizemore is really good.
Tom Sizemore is great in this. A young Natalie Portman. Did not expect that. Danny Trejo was in here too. John Voight with longer hair. William Fichtner, who's in everything. Henry Rollins from out of nowhere.
You know who Henry Rollins is?
I'm broken
liar.
I know he
was big in the 90s.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
I know, but I remember him he was punk. He was a punk rocker.
Yep. Dennis Haysbert is he's the one dude on the commercials.
Yep. We have Ted Levine, Hank Azaria, you know him from over on Simpsons. Tom Noonan, who just keeps popping up in a lot of these different movies.
Noonan. Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Piven, small scene. Still, just he's like the veterinarian guy, just stitching up Val Kilmer's shoulder. You got Tone Luck was in here too.
You know what he's known for from the 80s?
Funky Cold Medina, right?
Wild Thing.
Oh, isn't he? Oh, did he also do that too? Oh, wait,
he did both of those, but Wild Thing was the big one.
Yeah.
That was Spring Break, baby.
Xander Berkeley, just randomly popping up here as the guy that she's sleeping with. That one of his Diana Verona was cheating on with. I was like, what?
Can I tell you Xander Berkeley's story from the 80s and Spring Break?
Go ahead. Sure.
I went on Spring Break and I met a few ladies. They said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Xander." And they slept with me. That's all you have to do at Spring Break.
Yep. Yeah. So just like it's a huge casting here.
No, it is. And that's one of the things too, is sometimes with casting, what we do is we think of, okay, who's the A-lister, who's going to bring in people. There's a difference between that and saying, okay, let me fill out the rest of the group versus, you know what?
Yeah.
This movie I'm writing with this person in mind, or these kinds of things, because this is not what I would call a solo film. It really isn't. It's about different groups and sides. There
are two other actors I want to talk about. Farrah Fork. You may not know who she is, but she was on Wings.
Okay, which is something I did not watch, but I'm more.
I know it was a very popular show there. She just died back in 2022. Martin Ferrero. You know who he's from? Miami Vice. We just watched him in Stop Where My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, God. Oh, wow.
Like I said, you got a whole cast in here of just like this bunch of people in here. It's crazy. But the big names here, like I said, like at the time, Ashley Judd was probably, this probably helped her career too. She was in a lot of things. Sizemore was being a character, was getting a lot of work. Danny Trejo, Natalie Portman was just, she just did Leon, a year later or before this?
Around that. I think it was
right around, maybe. So, but William Fichtner was like, I was like, wow, he was in this too. Like, John Voight was awesome here as the go-to. He's the guy who helped set up the deal and stuff. He was, if they need to sell something, he was the guy, the mentor for Robert De Niro's, Neil McCauley character. Al Pacino playing the cop. Chris, you got Val Kilmer, who's kind of like an addict in this kind of movie a little bit. He's a gambling problem, and he's just. You got Ashley Judd playing his wife. They have a son, and she's afraid of him, and just they're all constantly fighting, So he's messed up in the head. Tom Sizemore is a family man in this, and he's just loyal. There's a bunch of loyalty. That's a big thing about this movie, loyalty. Even though the heat's on, you got William Fichtner playing a guy who basically is like they robbed his bonds, or whatever, and they're gonna sell them back to him. He's like, and Henry Rollins is this big old bodyguard for him. And I'm thinking Tom Noonan was who was the Wade Burrell guy, the guy at the end. It's Kevin Gage. Kevin Gage is the guy who worked with him on a Bay job, screwed him over towards the end. Like I said, such a huge cast. I love this. We'll go back to here though.
Yeah, before we get into some of the bank scenes, the one thing I do want to bring up, because we're getting some people piling in here too. Yeah. Obviously, when we did the review, the Rest in Peace video for Val Kilmer, we were talking about his film. So you went ahead and put up a poll, correct, with 3 movies on it? Because I've seen already like over 30 votes.
Yeah, yesterday I put a poll up. 3 Val Kilmer movies. And Ghosts in the Darkness, The Saint, and Thunderheart.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, okay, we'll see what's going on. Because I had some people who asked, said like, hey, Thunderheart, we should check that out. Desert Rose, I think she said Thunderheart was one of her favorite movies. So I threw that on the list. They also threw on The Saint, because The Saint's another movie gets looked over.
True. Absolutely agree.
We do want to put Tombstone in there, because Tombstone is a very popular movie, and it would have just killed the poll. We would have known that would have won easily. But Ghost in the Darkness, I did not expect that to go the way it went.
Yeah, it's in the lead right now, but we've got several days more voting too. So
sure,
I appreciate you people reposting and sharing it. If you have groups and all that kind of stuff.
Got to Saturday night.
Looking at it. Yep.
At the end of the poll, Saturday night midnight is when I'm gonna decide whoever's in the lead is the movie we're gonna do for Sunday. But said what's up the movie, obviously TV, saying I love this movie. Danny was in, or that's you above there. You guys got almost similar icons, the black and white. This was the first time watch for me. watching through here, and I was like, wow, it's 3 hours. As I said, I watched about got halfway through, 2 hours in, and then we did our RIP or remembering, Val Kilmer stream on this past Sunday, and I figured well, I got to go back and finish the watch. I might as well finish the rest of this. And I told the Rob, it's like, why don't we just do this on Tuesday? It's fresh in my mind. It's a very popular movie. It's one we haven't got on the channel, so that's how that came about. But watching this and the cat and the mouse game between Robert De Niro and Al Pacino is what sells the movie. I love having the additional characters, the cast in there, Val Kilmer, pretty much being the wild card. Mm-hmm. First I'm watching this, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, is he, because he's out of control. Like, I'm thinking, is he gonna die at the end? Is he gonna be like, because it is, something, whenever there's a heist movie, something always goes wrong.
Yeah, and it should be, right? You make a plan, but something has to go wrong. That's absolutely true.
When we get that Wade Burrow guy, the guy hired for the bank job, or not the bank job, but the armored truck job in the beginning, and he screws up, and they basically they had a meeting in a diner, and then he's gonna go whack him, but he leaves, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there goes a loose end. That's gonna come back to bite him in the ass. And I kept thinking, like, who's gonna make it out alive? Because no one makes it out alive in these things. And it's shocking when you find out who does, because I did not expect that, and I will not spoil that for anybody who has not watched this. You got to sit for 3 hours, or go to Google if you want to spoil it. But man, favorite scenes of this movie, man, is just like when they know they're made, when they're breaking in or the safe or whatever, this metal place, and you have Al Pacino and all the SWAT guys across the street in this trucking yard. And they're inside the back of this, trailers, of the semi-trailers. They're watching Al Pacino, and Al Pacino's watching, and then the little camera, you see the van pulls up, out gets Tom Sizemore. He climbs up and he basically disables the alarm. And then you see Val Kilmer goes up the door, puts a spike in and hammers it after the alarm's on. They go in, they're doing stuff. You see Robert De Niro kind of walking out, and he looks around, and he goes in the dark corner of the building, and he's just standing there. Stupid guard, or SWAT guy with his gun, having a coffee water bottle, bumps up against the back of the truck. Robert De Niro hears it, and they're like, oh shit, there's a tense minute. Like, did he hear it? He kind of walks in. He goes, he tells Val Kilmer, we're walking. He's like, what? We're walking. So they walk, they get out of there. And it's just like, I love that tense moment. So then they find out that they're kind of been made, or at least they think that somebody's watching them. So they all four of Tom Sizemore, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, so those three guys meet up. And they go outside in like this construction area there, and they're sitting there talking and stuff, and they're talking about just walking because the heat's on to them, There's no, he doesn't blame anybody, but you got Val Kilmer says, I need this job. He's pleading. Yeah. Tom Sizemore says, "Well, go fuck it, I'm in," And he's like, because even though Robert De Niro says like, hey, dude, you have a family. You're fine. We've done so many jobs. You don't need to do this. You can walk. But he decides a loyalty stayed in there. And I love the fact that after they do all this, they leave. Al Pacino shows up with his cop squad or a police squad. They show up there standing, and Al Pacino's looking around. Is like, what were they looking at over here? Because they've been following the cars. And they're like, looking at, and he realizes, like, son of a bitch. You know what they were looking at? They're looking at us.
Yeah,
and you see it zooms out. I love that Michael Mann does that the camera stuff. It zooms out, and you see Robert De Niro with the big zoom lens camera, and he's taking photos of all of them. And he's like just looking up at him. I was like, I love it. I love that kind of tense, like cat and mouse. It's kind of intelligence, This
that's to me. So a lot of times when we talk about having a setup for a scene, sometimes you know what it is going into it, and then you're watching how the characters respond to it, right? Mm-hmm. Other times you don't know, and it's a shock to everybody, and that's it. But then when you know what it is, next time you watch it, then maybe you are able to watch, okay, how did they film it? How did they set it up to do it? And then there's other scenes too, like, talk about like comedy movies and all that, where they'll put some people together and say, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish in a scene, and they'll film a bunch of takes until they get the one that's just right with the chemistry and all that. And you can kind of see that it's a unique, fresh thing that if you were to do it 10 times, it's just not going to be the same. And one of the things that Michael Mann, I think, does great is if he's going to do something with violence or whatever, he tries to make it realistic. You and I have talked about this with Collateral, with gunplay and Tom Cruise and all that stuff. We've talked about it with just how he uses a lot of natural light and everything too. So like here when they do the bank heist, I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know how realistic the setup for them looking at everything. A lot of bank scenes are, hey, we're just going to walk in, everyone's an idiot, and we're going to get it. Then the cops are going to get called. And we've seen it 1,000 times, right?
Well, they drilled into something on the floor. They went to the parking structure the night before. We're drilling on the floor and hooking up to the circuit board. Probably looking to see the cameras and
right. But there's an element of thought to it that doesn't border on sexy, cool, hip stuff like jewel heist movies, like the Ocean's 11, the remake movies of the Frank Sinatra ones. So what I like here is that, to your point, when you get to see that unfold, and even if you know it, watching it again, you're like, yeah, this does feel pretty good. And I always say this about Michael Mann, it's a feeling. It's not what's going on, it's just the setup. And because it's a prayer film, he gets to take his time doing it. You're not rushing, okay, we got to hurry up and get this over, then roll the credits and then start moving into what's really happening. No, take your time. Talk about how each people has their own motivation for doing it. Because I tell you, this movie, you talk about heat, you talk about the buildup between different groups of people. This movie, a lot of people had a lot of looking forward to it because of Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like being across each other, right? And so we do get that. And it's not, it's in a decent chunk in the movie, but it's not, when they do it, that's the final boss, right? So to me, if you really step back and look at it, this movie really is about the relationships and how people are trying to develop them or just have one final good one, and that's it. Everybody has their own motivation for what that is.
The big score. That's the thing. It's like the
exactly.
Big score, you walk
if
away
I can only do it just this right, this one more time, everything will be okay. And that's not how life is. So it's very tragic to me.
Yeah, and as obviously we have Val Kilmer and his wife have a dysfunctional family. Robert De Niro discovers that she's cheating on him. He goes up, he's like, hey, I can't be doing this shit. It's like, after that we pull this job, if you want to do it, walk away, go ahead. But until then, give him another chance,
Yep.
And he's like, and Hank Azaria ends up, becoming a liability later towards the end. Yeah, so like I said, the relationships, John Voight with Robert De Niro's character, kind of like a father, a mentor, and I kept thinking like, oh, we're gonna get another Mission Impossible. Sorry, Ethan, I'm betraying you. like I know someone's gonna betray somebody. It always is. And the bank job. So they're gonna pull up this small bank job, and like I said, they went into the circuit board. So I figured that's what they did. They lost a look at the layout, but they probably disabled the alarms, because the only reason the cops knew that they had robbed it is because they got one of their informants tipped them off, and I think the person that tipped them off, what they thought was Danny Trejo. That's what everybody's led to believe, because he said, "Hey man, I can't shake the tail. I got heat." So he just showed up. They had to get a replacement. So they got this guy from the diner, who's an ex-con who had worked there before, who basically gets tired of basically the boss he works for, because he's a felon, was treating him like shit. So he left. He quit. And he was going to be their driver. And so they end up going to rob the bank, and the only reason they got the cops were even alerted to the alert because, well, somebody said something. So we find out later on that it was actually Wade Burrell's character, the guy who basically who fled before, the one at the loose end, and went to William Fletcher, told him what was going on, tried to make a deal. He talks a big game, saying like, "Oh yeah, I worked this guy many times. I know how he thinks." He's lying on his ass. But oh my gosh. So it was like I said, like because of that, the cops show up, then they get this huge shootout. And I love this because you get the over the shoulder camera view over the guns, kind of like a first person shooter kind of thing that.
Yep.
And or third person. And when they're firing these are fully automatics, they're loud. These aren't and these are military grade. They're not I'm not sure, they look more like M16s. They don't look like the normal ARs, AR-10s, AR-15s, because but anyway, so they got the full automatic clip. So when they fire, it's loud. They're shooting this.
Yep.
And then they're going through, and I kept thinking, like, prior to this, Al Pacino had followed Robert De Niro, pulled him over, and they went to have a sit down face to face. And Robert De Niro says, like, and talk to him. He's like, it's like, and Al Pacino says, like, there's two different, there's a scenario, like, going on. He's like, it's like, now we sit down, you do what you got to do, and I got to do what I do. It's like, but I'm gonna feel bad if I have to take you out. And then Robert De Niro says, like, well, there's another scenario to that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just disappear. You never see me again. And because Al Pacino talked a big time, he's like, well, yeah, he's like, he said, like, but if it comes to the point where I have to save some poor bastard's life because of you, it's like, I'm gonna put you down. So here's the thing: Al Pacino talks that big shit, but what does he do when they're chasing them through the? These guys are fleeing because the driver gets shot. They're running. They're all on foot. They're firing. Cops are being killed, and there's bullets flying everywhere. There's civilians, and here's the thing: these guys are hiding behind all the civilians who are stuck in traffic. They're being shot by the cops.
Yeah.
There's bullets everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's such a freaking hypocrite, and then they go in. Tom Sizemore ends up getting split off. The rest of them goes a different direction. He runs with his bag of loot. We see Val Kilmer with Robert De Niro run, and they're holding off each other, and then Val Kilmer gets clipped in the neck. And we learn later on, that a bullet fractured his shoulder collarbone. But they Robert De Niro carries him through, and they go through a grocery store parking lot, and they're shooting everything. And I'm thinking, like, at this point, this is why you don't pursue them like that with a gun. You go after them when there's not a crowded area. Like, I can't see him having a job after this, because all the collateral damage, everything is like horrible. But
right.
Anyway, they make it. They flee out of there. They end up going to, like, the Jeremy Piven's little, like, veterinary clinic.
Yeah.
I was like, Jeremy Piven's in this. I was like, I'm not, because I didn't look at the cast or nothing when I saw that. I knew that it was Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Val Kilmer. That's all, and Tom Sizemore. That's all I knew. And then, like, so it was like Jeremy Piven just pops up, and he's like, patches them up, and then they give him money. He's like, Robert De Niro's like, hey, I need your shirt. He's like, my shirt, my daughter gave this, for my birthday. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Give me your shirt. Little stuff like that. Meanwhile, we have Robert De Niro breaking his own rule. They learn from his mentor. You have if you have 30, if the heat's on, you have 30 seconds to walk away, and you can't have anything attached to you. So, anything you're attached to, you have to be able to walk away within 30 seconds. And he can't, because he started dating Ashley Judd. Mm-hmm. Or not Ashley Judd's character, but Amy Brennan.
Yep.
And
after they meet, which is a good way to meet.
And then after the bank job, he goes to her, and she's like, "Is that you?" And, like, they kind of fight and stuff. And then he kind of keeps her, like, constant, but not really, because she loves him, and she decides she's gonna run away with him. But of course, because it's so cliche with every villain, and this is the thing I did not like. Robert De Niro's character decided he wanted to get revenge on the guy that betrayed all the cause of that stuff. So instead of just leaving the airport, he's in the clear, decides to go to the hotel where the cops are watching, and he kills the guy. And of course, as he's just getting in the car, the fire department's there because he pulled the fire drill in order to clear everybody out. We see Al Pacino shows up. They run over to the airstrip, and they're hiding behind these generator things, and they're having a shootout. And this leads to Robert De Niro basically getting whacked. And I kept thinking, like, what a stupid move. You were in the clear. You had money. You could have left, and he just wanted to go for all of it. He got this point. He got cocky,
Well, let me interject here for a minute, because I think what you're kind of describing, even with this action scene, is kind of like the gist of the movie. It's not so much about the score or what the score represents. It's going back to what I was saying before about humans and connections. You have failed ones. You have ones that possibly could do that. You just have life that's going on here, and he's just the amount of friction you have in having to deal with it. And everybody's not 100% functional, because I agree with you. It's like if someone says, hey, I want to accomplish something, like I want to save $1 million or whatever, and you get $999,000. Are you a loser? Well, you didn't accomplish your goal, but does something magical happen for that last dollar that pushes you over limit? It's psychological. It's in your head. So your point is, I think, valid. It's people have a goal, whatever that is, but then they don't have they have it, but they don't know why they have it or what it means at the time. And I think that's interesting here, because the Brenneman character, I know I've not spoken of her highly in the Old Man show that we've reviewed here on Extreme TV, just because I felt she was a forced character. And here I thought it was a much, much better role for her, just talking to him because she's kind of interested. I just thought it was very natural feeling without, gushing or whatever like that. And when you're middle-aged or older, you kind of cut to the chase. It's not this coy bullshit stuff that you see in movies today or in real life. And so I like that. It was real. It was adult-like. But to your point, it's like, what is it here? Is it ego? Is it because you really don't want the dream, and so this is an easy way out? I mean, is it too hard to face the reality? That's kind of what it is.
Did you notice there's 3 types of different women? There's 3 women here, 3 different personalities. You got Ashley Judd's character, who basically just wants out of her relationship. She's afraid of Val Kilmer. Then you have Amy Brennan, who basically who just fell in love with that, and she's okay with being a lover of the criminal towards the end here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the other one. We have Diane Venora, who is so messed up and spoiled in this movie. I just wanted her to get whacked. Al Pacino, she's Al Pacino's wife. She doesn't give 2 shits about her daughter, as clearly we can see in this, and until the very end, he's like, and she's asking, why would she do this? Because what happens is because Venora, her character, Justine Hanna, whatever, Diane Venora, is constantly popping Valium and doing all these things, and is not even there, and she's always getting on Al Pacino's case because, you don't care about these, you're dead in this marriage. It's like, you don't tell me these things. He's like, why? You want me to tell you about someone putting a baby in a microwave? Is that what you want? And then she's like, shuts up a little bit. It's like, yeah, I didn't think so. And she just played. That's such a cliche role. I was kind of weird to have that in there, But
I think it's a lot of just the typical stuff, because you could argue that the 3 personalities you're describing are just at a certain stage in the relationship. You have the interest kind of thing where you don't really care what the person does. It only matters how they treat you. Then you have, what they do as far as providing for you. And then you have that part where the relationship's already over and you're already just fighting and looking for a way out at this point, because, no, I don't know that any woman necessarily cares what a man does. She just cares that he's confident in doing it and can provide, right? And that's what you're absolutely right. He's got all this money. He's got a way out, but he overdoes it by spoiling them, which is not a good thing to do. But to be able to put them in that position, he has to have this kind of focus, and they can't have something distract that. And you're right. He's human. He falls apart with it.
So, yeah, her character is pretty much a very feminist bullshit character. That's what I don't like about it. Because she goes and cheats on him. And he comes over, he's like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, and she's like, oh, you're not angry? Why aren't you angry? And he's like, oh, of course I'm angry. And and Al Pacino looks at him, and he's looking at Xander Berkeley's character on the couch, like, hey, I had no idea that she was married and stuff. She didn't tell me all that stuff, and he's like, I'm angry, I'm upset, but there's one thing I know I'm really pissed off. He's not fucking watching my TV. He rips the TV out, the little tube TV, takes it with him. He's like, fuck you. He's like, you can have my wife. You can have all that stuff, but you will not watch my fucking TV. And she's like, and she's kind of gets offended and stuff. And then he kind of he leaves. That's it. He's like, I'm not going to do it. You cheated on me. You're crazy, and honestly, and Al Pacino's not in the wrong in this, honestly. Later on, because later on, we see him driving the car. We see Natalie Portman on a park bench. She's like, hey, your mom picking you up? And she's like, nah, and clearly she must have been, OD'd somewhere, or not OD'd, but passed out, whatever. Doesn't care to give a shit about her daughter. So her daughter, he's like, oh, I'll give you a ride home. Later on, because she's his stepdaughter was with him at the hotel, apparently watching or living with him. He goes in there and he finds, why is the water overflowing? And then she slit her wrist in the bathtub. And then when we go to he carries her in there and the yard, and his wife, she's like, oh, why would she do this? One, because you don't give 2 shits about her.
You're applying logic to an emotional situation.
I know
that always, you can't do that when it comes to these things.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's like, at this point, I wouldn't, and it seemed like he was gonna get back with her because she's gonna come on, accept the fact that he's there. I'd be like, no, you're done. You cheated on me. You're gone. I can't trust you. Yeah, yeah.
This is really got to you here.
it was annoying. It's such a crappy character.
I don't know why that was put in there. I can only speculate. I've heard other things. Yeah, but it's
Yeah, I don't know. I guess.
how does having that in there affect the movie and the characters? Does it make you enjoy the character more, or
Well, I
appreciate him, or
mean,
what?
here's the thing. It's like it was funny because here's the cop. His life's going to shit, and he says he's on his third marriage, And then we see like Robert De Niro's character, who's the criminal, finally finding love. This is a guy you haven't had anything for, so his life goes to shit because is just like totally different reasons. But I mean, like it was interesting to see the flip flop personalities of these characters.
Well, you're right. The alleged on paper good guy, it's going to shit. It's on a negative slope.
The bad guy.
And the bad guy. And so the whole meeting with them that's supposed to be really iconic and all that, I think it's a good one.
Yep.
I think it's sufficient. It didn't blow me away. I liked it, but I wasn't creaming my pants like a lot of people like, oh, it's the best scene of all time. People, no, it's not. It's just very good. And you knew they were going to meet, and really they're flip sides of the same coin, right? That's the whole point. So is Michael Mann suggesting that, hey, no matter how good you are, how much good of a provider you are, you got to still take care of things at home. I mean, where do you draw a line? What's the balance? And that's the whole problem. When you're out of balance, what do? You generate heat. That's how I look at it, right? If you're spending too much time doing, A and then B's lacking, well, you're gonna have to pull back on A and work on B. And that's how it is. So a woman's role basically is to remind you of, hey, it'd be nice to go out to dinner this week. And, that's the hint that you're supposed to take. Hey, she needs some time. I better do something, right? And so the one stage, right? They were way past it. So all that's left is her to do something so dramatic to make him, say we're done, we're over with, when she does that by cheating, because that's fairly standard.
So did you know that Righteous Kill came out in 2008 later? It wasn't a Michael Mann film, not that I'm aware of, but it was John Abbott had the same ending kind of scene with those two kind of having a shootout.
Well, it's
honestly,
not even really about the shootout to me. It's all about how you.
I'm just saying, it's like out of both those movies, and I don't know if we've reviewed Righteous Kill yet. Maybe we have. I know we talked about it. Righteous Kill is a better Heat movie for me, but Heat did have good stuff, like the bank rob, the shootout stuff. I love that stuff. It's towards the end there. Certain stuff I love it, but the ending was just kind of like cliche to me. You just can't let it go. And then
But that's every episode of Miami Vice.
And
here's the thing: the movie that keeps coming up to me when I watch this that I compare it to is Thief. And what I like better about Thief, it's more about an individual dealing with life and all that. So it's like a condensed version of this. It's like a one-act play, whereas this one's got several different ways you can look at it, depending on which relationship you focus on, or you may have some way of going, hey, this is familiar to me, whatever, no matter what your situation is. So I think this is just obviously a more complex kind of telling of the same tale, because to me, the better scene by far is the diner scene in Thief, where he's sitting there with the woman explaining what he wants out of life and saying, hey, this is how it is. This is what's going on. Are you in or are you out?
Yeah.
And she realizes he's not fucking around. He's dead serious. He's like, I've been a slammer too long. This is what I want out of my life. And I think he nailed it with James Caan playing that character a bit better here, because what they do is they take that one person, James Caan, and they split him into what you said earlier. Flip sides of the same coin here. One is each of these two characters. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I like seeing it unfold, but in my mind, being such a huge fan of the movie Thief, when I see this, I go, that it looks like he just took the same story in a way and kind of this way, because
he did it.
Yeah, here again with shootouts, we've got Collateral, we've got really good stuff with guns, but Thief was a little more of the James Caan, I think, supposedly actually did the safe cracking on his own, right? A skill thing. So Michael Mann appreciates people that are skilled in what they do, but what he likes to do is show you what kind of toll it has on you, and the best way he can do that, I think, is human relationships. So when you watch Miami Vice, it's all about Crockett and Tubbs working together and their issues they have, and then of course their group of some of the goofy plots again. It's not who's the cute person of the week that's going to be the bad guy or anything else like that. It's all about the shit they have to deal with. And at the end of the seasons of Miami Vice, it's like this movie. It's all the same. You've got to decide what you want and when you get it, and do you have the balls to get out when you can.
So here's the budget for this movie was $60 million with a box office 187. So basically, it was a big hit.
Yeah, 3-1.
And then I never realized what the score was. Basically, they were robbing the bank, which is worth at the time was $12.2 million out of that bank. But I did like it. The fact it's like everyone had their masks. So Tom Sizemore had his mask on, and so did Robert De Niro. But then Val Kilmer just knocks the guard out, starts punching him, then puts his mask on. Like, people just saw your face, bro.
What'd you think of the Val Kilmer's physical look in this movie? Because I liked it. I thought, man, this young kid's growing
looked
up.
Good. The long hair, I was like, what is this? The long hair, It's like the Ghost in the Dark. I don't. Did he have long hair in the Ghost in the Darkness?
I don't recall.
But came out around like the same year at the same time. Yeah. So at the end, here's the thing: Val Kilmer ends up going back to his wife, because he gets a phone call, and at this time we get to see him. Like, we haven't seen him since he got stitched up. He's laying low, with John Voight's character, and we learned that he left, so he went to go in his car to go show up at the thing, and then of course, she's there with the cops and stuff, and it's like, hey, if you don't help us, we're gonna lock you up as a betting. We're gonna take away their kid and stuff. And we see him pull up. There's this across the street. There's people playing basketball and stuff, and he kind of gets out. And if you look at his face, he actually he cut his hair. He had the haircut from Batman Forever. He dyed it brown and everything from being the blonde he had in the movie. So it was, and then he gets. I love his acting, because he was like this the whole time. Remember his neck, his shoulder broken, his collarbone. So he was like driving like this. He's like, "What's up, guys?" Just. So it was like, it's sort of weird. It's like, but I love that. That just means he's staying true to the character. It'd be weird if he just shows up and also he's like, his neck's fine.
Well, does he represent the younger version of them, where like the older person could start and say, "Hey, just take it from me. Get out while you can. I'm too old. I don't have."
Here's the thing, and you guys are not gonna like this. He is the Jesse of Breaking Bad in this story. Pretty much. Well, Charlie's there, or not Charlie. I don't say Charlie's there. Actually, Judd is sent out, basically go greet him with the window, and she smiles, but then she's like, like this, she'll get emotion, like no, and he sees it, he realizes that he's crying because he wants to be with his wife and his son and stuff, and so he goes back in his car, and he like SWAT everyone on the rooftops looking at him and stuff, and so he ends up leaving. It's nighttime. They can't make it out who's in there. He keeps driving forward, and he's asking the guy for directions, and then so he drives away, and then the cop there is like, we should probably check him out, see who he is. And they check him out, and his fake ID works. The car and everything is out, so, and he literally just leaves. He is the survivor of this movie.
Yep.
I would have loved to see a sequel with him. What happened? I want to know at least what happened to him. If you have a different group of people, but we at least get to hear about him being somewhere, that would have been great.
Well, I think he's supposed to represent the whole idea that, again, the problem that these mature characters have is they got too far along in their life where they couldn't guide it to where it should be, and the whole point in relationships is it takes work, right? You just don't have a relationship and it works, whether it's with a person, with a job, combining both, family, profession, all that sort of stuff. What's important to you?
No attachments.
Well, I mean, is that a relationship? Because then you don't have anything. So what's the point, right?
Well, the whole point is
Brenneman's character, right?
Criminals, you don't have no attachments, so you have no one, because the only thing you can trust.
That's impossible. I understand what you're saying.
I understand. Yeah.
Right.
That's why you see criminals hooking up with hookers.
Well, whatever. But the Amy Brenneman's character was almost she just felt a connection, right? That's a human being.
And then right? And it's sometimes you just can't. It's impossible. And well, he sees how Val Kilmer is character in this movie is, with his wife and stuff, and he sees that Tom Sizemore had kids and a wife and everything, and he sees like, hey, the life is possible. But he always kept, because the way he is, very particular, very smart, always believed in what he was raised by his mentor. He said, like, you don't get touch anything, you can't walk away in 30 seconds when the heat is on.
I'll say this because we don't really get into, like, say, politics necessarily and all that kind of stuff. I'm not in any way suggesting that all this movie has hardcore Christian themes and is supposed to be
No.
I'm simply talking about relationships in the adult perspective of you're an adult, you're responsible for what happens to you and how you respond to things and all that,
Mhm.
and it's your choice. And so I don't feel sorry for any of these characters, but they're done in such a way where, other than one character that really annoyed you, you want to see her head get blown off. I thought he did a very smart
Not head
job
blown
of,
up. I just wanted to be told off and just feel like, yeah, like they're at the hospital. He's like, you're the reason because you don't give a shit about your daughter.
yeah, but if you match crazy energy with crazy energy, what are you really getting for yourself? You're bringing yourself down, right?
I'm getting
So,
amusement.
well,
I'm the viewer.
that means to get amusement, you're going to seek out bad stuff, right? That's kind of what this movie
Yeah.
suggests, right? So
Well, not
it's,
necessarily.
it's a lot of different personalities that represent like one whole character if you put them all together, I think. And
Wow.
that's one way that I thought about it a little bit differently on this rewatch here. But I agree with you. I think it's a very good film. I don't have the urge to go back and rewatch it often.
No.
I really don't. Thief, I do, just because of how strong James Caan is here. But this in no way demeans Sizemore's, bit, or
Like I
Val
said,
Kilmer's or anything.
people-
It's an excellent film.
Like I said, I've heard from people over the years said, "Oh, if you like Miami Vice, you'll like Heat. It's the same director and it's the same kind of anger stuff, and it's just like having a longer version of Miami Vice without the music."
Yeah.
But
you know what? It sounded like you appreciated most
Yeah.
as you said a few times, the cat and mouse part to it rather than the shootouts, and I agree.
I love the
think
shootout.
that's the
Yeah.
best part of it.
The shootouts and the cat and the mouse game, stuff. I just didn't care for some of the cliche things they put in there. It's just like, okay. But what's up, Jay? It's popping a great movie, but it's long.
Yeah, right at the beginning, Jay RDV was going
Yeah.
through the history of
Yeah.
how this movie came to be, so that was interesting. I did not know that
Yeah.
myself.
Originally it's going to be set as so in '89 we talked about that. Well, before that, before 1981, before
From
Thief
Thief.
came out,
Yeah.
back in 1979, he had already wrote a rough draft for Heat. And then he rewrote it again after the success of Thief for Walter Hill to take it. And Walter Hill said no. And I was like, Walter Hill, man, that could have been one of your best movies. But then again, who would they got the cast? That's the other thing. The cast
True.
is what makes the movie.
Yeah.
Al Pacino and just especially Robert De Niro's performance is what really sold the movie for me.
Yep.
And I'm not a huge Robert De Niro guy, but he had that cool, calm, like I got it all together. I'm smart, I don't have to worry about this. You think I'm scared of you because you're a cop? No, you got nothing on me. So I can just disappear and
He's
and
good
he knows
that
it.
way.
I
He
love
really
it.
is.
I love that kind of intense. They had in the diner scene. I'm not saying it's the best scene ever, but I'm saying it's like, yeah, you think you're tough shit because you're a cop? Well, you have nothing on me. I could just walk right now. And of course, Al Pacino's like, no, you're not gonna walk. I know your type. I've been with you. It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you're used to dealing with hoodlums. I'm a professional. Like, I just love the banter. It was kind of cool, but yeah. So the TV show was supposed to be like, was going to be like probably it was made for TV, or it'd be like a pilot they did, which ended up becoming LA Takedown. They changed the name from Neil Coffee, Neil to like, what was it supposed to be in the movie? Patrick McLaren. I was like, what? And they had it says here, it's got Scott Plank to play Sergeant Vincent Hanna, and then Alex MacArthur was Patrick McLaren. Michael Rooker was Bosco in this movie.
Michael Rooker.
I know, right?
We have a Michael Rooker saying.
Daniel Baldwin was involved in this too as one of the detectives.
No, but Michael Rooker in that 80s
Yeah.
serial killer movie that he was in, that was pretty damn good. That was creepy as shit.
And Xander Berkeley came back for this as Wangro.
The last thing I want to bring up a little
Yeah.
bit, because somebody mentioned it there in the chat, because I do think of this when I think of Michael Mann. When you think of Miami Vice, you think of pop music at the time, videos, how he was front and center of doing all that. But I'm a big fan of instrumental type music. I was mentioning about John Carpenter scoring his films, and love all sorts of music and everything too. It's a hobby of mine. I just enjoy it. But like one guy that's on a couple of these tracks, whose name would blow up if you didn't know it at the time, was Moby. And then another name too, I'm going to throw out to the hardcore people, is a guy named Brian Eno, who sometimes a lot of people consider as like the father of pretty much that kind of music, because synthesizers came around in the late 60s, early 70s and all that. And if you're like an Emerson, Lake and Palmer fan, you'll have heard some of that stuff there too. But Brian Eno did music for airports. I highly recommend it if you like it to get into that. But something about Michael Mann's mind, when we talk about Thief, he did Tangerine Dream. I did a lot of the soundtrack. Where you have that kind of mood stuff, it just fits with what you do, right? And so I think Michael Mann's one of those few directors you just go, man, I don't care what the movie is, because it's him. I'm going to give it a shot. And he's one of the few directors I automatically put in that category.
Unless it's a Miami Vice movie, don't watch it.
I'm going to disagree because it's disjointed, and a lot. I think it's on the actors and the shit show it was. But when you watch it, there is a vibe to it, and it does feel very familiar.
Well,
I don't think it failed in that regard.
I think it failed in a sense because he decided to go with everything that made Miami Vice cool. You know
how
he got, because obviously he got it's set in the modern stuff. He got rid of the 80s, got rid of the music, got rid of most of the girls. And he put Jamie Foxx in there as Tubbs. It was this horrible casting.
Oh, you don't like
Tubbs? He said more seriousness. There wasn't as much. He didn't have the Sonny Crockett humor, you know.
The Sonny Crockett humor, if you watch, has a little bit of cynicism, and you're right, for a TV show in the 80s, is definitely more pop-oriented, whereas the movie's a bit more grim.
It is. That's what I mean. It's like it went from camp to like, whoa. But yeah. I want to bring up one more thing about this movie. I was reading up on as quickly in the Wikipedia. Anybody can read this up here. But this movie could have bombed, and for one reason only. Before Val Kilmer got the role, do you know who they offered the role to?
No.
Keanu Reeves.
Interesting.
Keanu Reeves, I think, would have killed this movie. Not only that.
You mean killed it in a bad way or a good way?
Bad way. And also,
really,
there was another person, your favorite rock star, John Bon Jovi, tried for the role. I kid you not. Yeah, Keanu Reeves in this would have sucked. Honestly, it doesn't. He's not. Val Kilmer is a much finer caliber actor, at least back then. I think Keanu. It's not to say because Keanu Reeves now has basically matured after the Matrix movies. He's actually gotten a lot better, especially with the John Wick and some of the other things he's been doing. So I think he's matured as an actor and gotten better over time. Whereas back then he was just known as Bill and Ted, you know.
I think he's exactly the same since day one. Every movie is exactly the same to me.
No, but Desert
Rose. Who doesn't love Point Break?
No, Desert Rose says the story was great, and there actually was a book about what happened to Chris.
I did not
really. After the events were supposed to have happened, really. If you can direct me to a link or not a link, but even just
Google is your friend, sir.
Amazon, because they can't post links; they don't have wrenches. But yeah, if you can point me to where that is, if it's available on Amazon or online somewhere, I can read it, whatever. Because I really want to know, because that's one thing about they leave loose ends like this. What happens to them? You know, sometimes it's good not to know, like the case of El Camino with Jesse Pinkman. I didn't need to watch that. Was bad. I didn't need to watch that after Breaking Bad. But yeah. All right. Just says I love all the movies in the poll. That's right. We do have for those who are just tuning in, we do have a poll up right now on the channel in the community posts. For this Sunday's movie at 7 p.m. Eastern, which will be either Thunderheart, The Ghost in the Darkness, or The Saint. Right now, The Ghost in the Darkness is still in the lead. So if you don't want that movie, vote for one of the other two. Even vote for the one that you don't like, just so as Ghost in the Darkness. Yeah, I don't know. The only one I haven't seen on that list, honestly, is Thunderheart. And it looks interesting. So I was like, oh, I voted for that, you know. But if you guys really want Ghost in Darkness, and then that wins the poll, we're going to do that. But you got to Saturday night, actually Sunday midnight, you know, Saturday morning or Sunday morning, Saturday night, right around there. And I'm going to decide which one goes, because whatever's in the lead is the one I'm going to schedule. But thank you all for being here. It's great to see people popping out. We've been fluctuating on the numbers, you know. I'm sorry we don't show movie clips.
That's okay. We've experimented. If you watch some of our older stuff, and we've decided to take a different approach for now, just for certain reasons. So it's just one of those things where we could look at this differently and analyze and talk about why a scene works or doesn't. We're not there yet. I mean, we could, but we just like to freestyle, and that's really what we like, and we think we do differently than everybody else that's out there.
So if you guys can follow that, leave a comment down below as far as after this is done. Helps with the algorithm and helps boost the channel out to other people. If you can, let us know what you thought of the movie. Did you not like this movie? If you didn't, explain why. Or if you did like this movie, what are your favorite parts? Let us know down in the comment section after the stream is over. Or for those watching the replay right now, you can do it right now while it's playing. And leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so, click the notification bell, and check out our other movie playlists we got going on the channel here. We do have a lot of 80s reviews on here, as well as we started doing some 90s disaster stuff like Volcano, and I think we're going to do Dante's Peak sometime. But
that was on our short list for sure. And
we just recently did Cyborg, which it got almost 300 views, which I think that means you guys want more either bad
they want sex scandals,
movies,
sir.
or you guys sex scandals. What?
How about Damned?
Yeah, but what does that do with sex scandals?
Got me too'd. You got me too'd.
It has nothing to do with the movie, though.
Well, people are. I'm just saying.
Nah, so I said either they want bad sci-fi stuff like Johnny Mnemonic, or they just want Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, which we have a lot. We also have a lot of Val Kilmer movies we have not delved into, including Batman Forever. So with that being said, hope you guys had fun. And I guess anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that the next video that will be dropping Friday night, I believe, is going to be episode 5 of the Granada TV series, 1984, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Jeremy Brett. Some people were asking, I just want to say it to everybody, because I know some people go back and check it out. It looks like it might be 2 seasons, but depending on how you look at it, they say season 1 is 13 episodes. Some say season 1 is like 6.
British series? Are they usually series?
Yeah, absolutely. Like they took a chunk of what stories and then did it.
It might just be 1 season, and they broke it into series, like 6 episodes here, 6 over there, or whatever.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, I just remember the Speckled Band just being absolutely phenomenal, and I'm trying to think if that's episode 5, but that would be actually episode 5 was A Crooked Man, and then a Speckled Band, which will be coming the week after that. We'll be doing, so check those out. We're going to be going through all 13 episodes. It's free on Tubi, I think also on Pluto, or even the Roku channel probably does, like, as a pass-through, because they have a lot of movies on there as well. I wanted to mention, at least here in the United States. Are you Central or East Coast?
I am an hour behind you, sir. So I'm Central.
Okay, because I'm Florida, Central Florida, so that's East Coast time, and you're Central. So yeah, so whenever, like you're saying, midnight Saturday, that's Eastern time. But yeah, 33 votes. Let's get some votes going on here. Let's see what movie comes up. I'm excited to see. That's a big fun part of what we do, is we don't know what you guys want us to talk about.
And we kind of skewed into if we have an actor. So we have an actor. Who knows? Well, the next poll might be up. We might just put up 3 of an actors. Which one? We're asking you which movie, which actor do you want more film reviews done by? You know. Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
And as always, stay extreme.
You staying for the explosion? Boom.
Boom goes the dynamite, baby.
Good night, everybody.